You're listening to The Stall and Stable Show. Ideas for happy horsekeeping.
No part of a horse barn is arbitrary. At least it shouldn't be. Every square inch of the space in which you keep your horses has a purpose, including the spaces where nothing exists, like doorways. In this episode, I will be going over the most frequently asked questions about barn entry doors and sharing some key installation tips so your doors function as well as they look. Pretty is as pretty does, they say. So listen in. This is episode 125 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by American Stalls. Welcome back, listeners. Today's Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. I'm your host, Helena Harris. In addition to our title sponsor, we are grateful for the ongoing support of Barn Pros, shipping their premium barn home kits nationwide. You can find all kinds of information about them on their website at barnpros.com. For this episode, I've partnered with American Stalls to go over some important and helpful information they've put together in order for barn owners to get a good idea of what goes into selecting and installing barn entry doors. So your entry doors are used a lot, and they're often a very visible part of your farm's overall aesthetic. Choosing the right doors for you or your barn, it doesn't need to be a brain twister. So I thought these questions were great. I thought this question and answer session was great. So we're going to get started with that. Some of the most frequently asked questions about barn entry doors. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of tips for installation, so you get the best out of what you're investing in. No horse barn is complete without large barn doors, typically entry doors. Again, they're the first things that you and your visitors see when you enter the property. Thankfully, American Stalls, they build custom entry doors of all sizes and designs. So even if you are retrofitting a barn, remodeling something, or, of course, building something new, you don't have to go with what's standard. You can find something that fits your unique entryway. This is especially true for much older or historic properties. And I've had my hand in a couple of barn remodels for historic structures, and it was very difficult to find a quality door that would fit the unique entryways that we had. So having something that's customized is great. While there are dozens of customizations for your entry doors, the principle of each set remains the same. Each set has to look good, it has to function, and it has to be safe. So these doors ensure that the barn interior is protected from the outdoor elements, but also ensure that your barn's beautiful, especially in your sightline. One of the things I love about Who Hollow is when I come down my driveway, I love coming home to a beautiful sight. I love the flowers that we put out front. I love the color of our front door. I love that the lawn is mowed and the weeds are trimmed. It makes me feel good, right? It's a pride in ownership. So a barn entry door is one of the first things you and all of your guests are going to see. It's worth it to invest in a nice one. Okay, on to the Q&A. Let's start with size and design. What's the standard size of a barn entry door? All of the entry doors are custom built to order, at least from American Stalls, so they build to your specifications. But they consider 10 by 10 or a 12 by 10 to be the standard dimension for entry doors. Keep in mind that the aisle doors need to be wide enough for a tractor to get through with a little room to spare for maneuvering. Because of that, they recommend a 12-foot width at a minimum. If possible, go larger. Question: what type of steel do you use for the doors? American Stalls uses pre-galvanized, 100% American steel, 2-inch by 2-inch square tubing on all of their barn entry doors. That being said, they can upgrade your doors to a 2x3, 2x4, or 2x6-inch frame to provide a more substantial look. So you can go with the finer 2x2 or a heftier 2x3, 4, or 6 frame. Question: are the entry doors insulated or weatherproof? No. Haha, surprise. Barn entry doors are not insulated. The heftiness of a barn door and its hanging design, its opening and closing, has a lot to do with weatherproofing or keeping the weather out of your barn. American Stall's entry doors are either sliding style or hinged. If it's the sliding style, the doors overlap the rough opening by 2 inches on both sides, so that keeps your weather out. That's nice. If it's a hinged door, then the big doors will include a corresponding frame that fits into the opening of your barn. Weather stripping is usually not needed because it's important for barns to breathe a little bit. So you want to keep the weather and the elements out, but you don't want it sealed up so tightly that you don't have any airflow at all. You may, however, want to provide some sort of cushioned rubber weather seal where the doors meet, or a brush type of seal at the jambs and the sill, which will limit cold winds and other debris from circulating into the barn. So you're not looking at actually tightening it up too much, but you want to protect those little tiny things that might creep in there and make your life difficult, at least more difficult than it needs to be. Question: can I add lumber to the barn entry doors? Yes, you can. Standard barn entry doors can be filled with pretty much whatever lumber you would like. There are wood-based designs, which include a welded U-channel on the steel frame. American Stalls recommends a 1.5-inch thick tongue and groove lumber to install into the welded U-channel in their doors. Vertical lumber fill is standard for their doors, but they can also weld their U-channel to allow for a horizontal lumber. Or if you want to get really fancy, you can install your wood diagonally. Ooh. I like vertical lumber. It's easier to keep clean. A lot of dust and debris settles into those horizontal seams. In my experience, vertical wood is easier to keep clean. Question: how wide are the crossbucks on the doors? The crossbucks on American Stalls entry doors measure 4 inches in width. They're made of pre-galvanized American steel, and they're powder-coated to match the frame. Question: is it possible to add a glass design to the top door? You betcha! You can either do a large glass piece for the entire opening, or you can do what they call a quad fill design, where they create a quadrant design with 2-inch steel square tubing that includes glass window retainers, and then they can install the 4 separate pieces of glass in those quadrants. It's really pretty. I will put a photo in this episode's show notes so you can see an example of what that looks like. Glass is a really nice way to add natural light into the barn, and especially on your entry doors where you really don't have to worry about horses coming into contact with the glass. So if you do want to use glass someplace on your property, your entry doors make a great place for that. How big and what the design looks like totally depends on your aesthetic, right? If you're going with a more rustic Pacific Northwest look and feel versus maybe a traditional low country Southern look, the actual glass you choose will depend on the overall aesthetic. But typically, as is best practice, you want to locate the windows starting at roughly human shoulder height so you can see into the aisle when they're closed. This is important for convenience and safety. Someone could suddenly open a large door from the outside and spook a horse on the inside, especially if they're unaware of what's happening on either side of the door. Not everybody heralds their arrival the way they should, right? I'm like a freak. Everywhere I go, I'm like, door! People whip their heads around like, who is this chick? It's important, I think, to herald your arrival. However, not everybody does that. So it's nice to see what's going on inside or outside of the barn when you're on the alternate side. One key recommendation that American Stalls makes is to make the glazed opening of the window large, but not too large so as to give a loose horse the idea that it's open and they can run through it. If, however, you do want to use a single large piece of glass in your entry doors, it's easy enough to add some sort of mullion or design to the glazed portion that'll prevent an animal from thinking they can gallop right through it. Question: do I need to provide my own glass? No. American Stalls offers custom cut, tempered glass, and installation prior to shipping to you from their facility. However, you can also source and install the glass locally if you wish. Moving on to hardware insights. Question: what hardware is included with the barn entry doors? All barn entry doors include 304 stainless steel door handles. If you're opting for a sliding barn entry door, then it will come with a complete track package, including door stops, door guides, tracks, trolleys, and end caps. If it's a hinged door, it will include a pre-hung frame and door system, which includes stainless steel barrel hinges. On a personal note, I can tell you that having a pre-hung frame and door system is really important for any door that you put on your barn. But having one that comes from the manufacturer is even more important, because we had somebody install our Dutch doors who wasn't very experienced in horse barns. And the door frames are so inappropriate for the lumber and the rough opening. And think about how many times you open and close doors. I open and close my Dutch doors all the time because my horses go in to eat and they need to be separated because they all have different diets. So I'm opening and closing their Dutch doors several times a day. And those stupid door frames make me want to poke my eyes out. So having something that's, having a frame that is designed for the door itself, they go together, will save your sanity. Question: what does it mean for an entry door to be pre-hung? When a door is described as pre-hung, it means the door comes already mounted into its frame. That's what I was just talking about. So rather than just being a standalone door, it's already pre-assembled with the door's stainless steel hinges in this case. Being pre-hung just means that the sections of the door are already put together and set into the frame. That makes installation to your actual barn way easier, less opportunity for error, and at the end of the day, the entire assembly is going to hang straight, it's going to be aligned, it's going to be easy to open and close, and it will not drive you batty. Moving on. Shipping and delivery. So these are big things. How do we get them to your property? How are the doors shipped? American Stalls barn doors are carefully stacked on a pallet. The pallet is then shrink-wrapped and banded before it leaves the facility. That keeps it nice and safe so it gets to your farm in one piece. Question: what type of truck will deliver the doors? So American Stalls ships their barn entry doors, as I said, on a pallet, on a flatbed truck, or a hot shot. The truck goes directly from their facility to your farm without any additional delivery steps. So that allows them to get your entire order safely to your barn as quickly as possible. And that's important. You don't want any of your barn components sitting around, especially exposed to the elements. Even if it's in a truck, even if it's packaged nicely, the weather has a way of getting into our stuff. This is one of those things that I talk about, sort of that conscientiousness about the company. They're very thoughtful. They're very considerate. They're not putting a whole bunch of orders on a single truck and then having to make multiple stops. This is that level of service that you're not going to get with other stall companies. Question: can I pick up the doors myself to save on shipping costs? Yes. The barn entry doors that they make can be picked up directly from their manufacturing facility in Farmington, Missouri. You just contact your project manager at American Stalls and they will be happy to arrange that option. Okay, installation tips. Question: is it challenging to install barn entry doors? Installing steel-framed entry doors in barns is relatively straightforward for someone who is experienced with construction or door installation. So, could I do it? No. Could you do it? Maybe. It all depends on your experience. These entry doors will install just like any other residential door, so they're no more complicated for someone who's somewhat experienced doing this. There isn't a degree of difficulty over and above a typical residential door. American Stalls hinged entry doors go in just like any other residential door. The door frame goes directly into your rough opening, with the inside of the frame screwed into the interior of that opening. Keep in mind that it's very important to ensure that the door is level and plumb during installation. You or your installer should use a level and make sure the door frame is square within the opening. If you have a sliding barn entry door, then it's recommended to install the track system first, then hang the door. Not sure about all this? Not to worry. American Stalls will send you very detailed installation instructions, so the door goes in as it should. And for our last question in this Q&A segment, when should I install the lumber? It's recommended to first install the doors into the opening without the lumber. This goes for hinged doors as well as the sliders. That's because the doors are very heavy and can be awkward to maneuver once the wood is in. For sliding doors, the installation order would go like this. First the track, then the door frame gets hung, then you install the wood. And here's a pro tip. If you plan to stain or paint the wood, you may have an easier time of things if you stain the wood first, cut the pieces to size, and then install within the door frame. Of course, if you have any questions about this process, you can just ask your American Stalls project manager. She will be very happy to help. I'm going through the American Stalls website right now, and I'm looking at some of their photos of their barn entry doors, and it's so exciting and inspiring. I mean, barn design has come so far in the last 10 years, 20 years. It's really nice. You know, these are the places where we spend a lot of time, and often where we spend our most precious time. So creating a beautiful, functional space where your heart lives is more fun than it's ever been. You know, I started podcasting in the horse world 14 years ago, and the options for barn design were nowhere near what we have available today. So this is wicked fun. You know, I was one of those kids who I had all the Barbies, and I had Barbie's camper, and I had Barbie's condo, but then I had Barbie's horse, and I had to go and find fencing, and I had to mix Briar with Barbie, and I spent more time setting up Barbie's farm than playing with Barbie or Ken. Browsing, shopping for, and selecting barn components is as much fun today as it was back when I was playing with Barbie and Briar. So I encourage you to go up to American Stalls website, go through their photo gallery, get inspired. If you have more questions than those we covered today, reach out to them, reach out to me. We would love to be a part of the fun of your barn project. And what's really nice is that all of the American Stalls barn components will work beautifully with your barn home kit from Barn Pros. Aha! See how that works? Barn Pros provides the entire kit from soup to nuts if you want, but if you want to build a quality barn home, barn on the bottom, home on top, go to barnpros.com. You can totally customize that kit. So if you want to have that designed without your stall components, then contact American Stalls and they can outfit all the finishes. That, listeners, is a match made in heaven. I have one small, well, maybe it's not so small. I have one special announcement to make before we sign off. We have decided to create a new Apple Podcast channel for Stall and Stable listeners. It will provide exclusive content. These are episodes that will not be available to the general public. It's a subscription-based service. It's only $3.99 a month and features the kind of content that I offer to my consulting clients, whether it's private farm owners or business owners. So there'll be both types of content for private and for professionals. So there'll be lots of business advice, lots of private farm planning advice, real estate advice, all that stuff that I typically share in my private appointments. So that content will be available through a subscription. It's called Stall and Stable Full Board, and it's available exclusively through Apple Podcasts. And we're just getting started with that. There's like one episode in there right now, but we will be loading more content in there as the weeks go by. So again, that's Stall and Stable Full Board. And if you have questions about it, feel free to reach me at stallandstable.com. If you would like or you need the one-on-one consultation, I am always here for you. You can go right up to stallandstable.com, click on the consulting tab or the consulting button, and my live schedule is there. So you just book an appointment and you'll see when I'm available. To toot my own horn for a little bit, you get a lot of value out of these consultations. You really do get a lot of bang for your buck. Whether you're planning a private farm, you want to buy one, you want to retrofit one, or you want to start a new business, go out on your own, or maybe you've been in business for years and it's time to make a change. I'm here for you. There are many different ways I can help. If you're not sure what you need is what I can help you with, send me an email first. We'll figure it out. Many thanks to American Stalls for providing the content for this week's episode. You can find them online at American Stalls.